Ha! You guys got jokes on you guys this time. We weren't muted. I was just mouthing words without actually saying anything. Are we live? Let us know if we are live because it's the Senior Bowl, baby. Day one recap. It was cold as ice, and we're here to talk all about it. Big winners on the trenches on the defensive side. There's some strength here in the defensive end group, defensive tackle group. So we're going to talk about that. You said, "Oh, audio's not working." Yes, it is. It is. So, Senior Bowl Day One recap. Grump, a cold one. How are we feeling? How are we doing?
Well, I'm feeling tired. This is a totally new setup this year. We had later practices than normal. It's also colder than normal being down here. We've had some cold days, but this is going to be a cold week. And the second practice was the sun was set. We had the lights on at the stadium, which normally doesn't happen. We're usually recording this episode at the stadium as the sun is set.
Yeah. At the end of the stream, I'm going to ask for permission to bitch like a media scumbag. So we're going to, at the end of this, I want permission to complain because I got a lot of complaints. And I usually try to not be a complainer. Maybe this is me getting a little jaded. Year 6 of Senior Bowl, love it, but I got some complaints. We got to fix this damn thing. So we usually go national team, then American team. You know, that's the order of the day instead of just position. I think the winner of the day was on the national team on the defensive line group. Lee Hunter, the defensive tackle out of Texas Tech. We actually have a quick interview with him on our Patreon. Now, he was just stronger than guys. You know, like they were on run drills and, you know, they're working double teams. Like it's planned double teams. He was splitting them consistently. Whenever he got a one-on-one in the run drills, just dominated. He was doing good in team drills. As a pass rusher, didn't do much in those one-on-ones. He did have a play where he just bullied some guard into where the quarterback's lap would be. But we put him on a thumbnail for a reason. He was just like there's other guys out here at really good days. I think Lee Hunter was just clear, like, man, he's just above the competition. Where I don't think a lot of other guys can make that case that they're just better than the competition.
I thought Lee Hunter had a pretty good day. I didn't think it was quite as dominant as you did, but overall, this whole day, both teams, there was a lot of action to be watched in the trenches, which is good if you're a Giants fan because they need to revamp both sides of the trenches, reinforce the offensive side, and get some life on the defensive side. And if you're looking to stop the run, Lee Hunter is definitely somebody that was splitting double teams in drills he's not supposed to win. He was winning. A little bit less than the one-on-ones for pass rush stuff, but still, overall,
I guess as a run defender is what I was most was saying.
Overall, though, he had a great day. So definitely somebody to check out. I thought also for the national team, defensive lineman that had a good day, Penn State defensive lineman Zane Durant.
Yeah, I thought Zane Durant looked the best as a pass rusher from that group. He wears that number 28. It sticks out like a sore thumb. And he was working like everything as a pass rusher, right? He had a couple lateral wins, some bull and pull. He was working through guys' shoulders. Like he won consistently. Like I said, maybe I'm hyping up Lee Hunter a little too much because he didn't do very much as a pass rusher. So I guess he's not that much better than the competition. But Zane Durant, I thought had, I guess just as good as a day. He just didn't look like the physically dominant player that Lee Hunter can be in the run game. Those two guys were the winners for us. Like we focus on the trenches quite a bit today. We'll probably try and get a little bit of the receivers, DBs. There's some corners I really want to pay attention to on the national side, like Chris Johnson from San Diego State, River. I forget the guy's name from Duke, number 0. So there's some guys I want to pay attention to, but those guys I thought were clearly above the rest on the national side.
Yeah, there were a couple other defensive linemen on the national side. Minnesota defensive lineman Devin Eastern had some moments. I think pad level is definitely something that he's going to have to work on, but he has such a quick first step off the snap that it gets him a real advantage. And if he can get hands in the chest of an offensive lineman right away, he can work somebody with power. But when he doesn't have such an immediate win right off the snap, his pad level starts to get high. His feet don't move as much.
Right.
So he was kind of on and off throughout the day, but definitely somebody that, this is NFL coaching down here. This is where our most important thing is not who's good on day one. It's who gets better from day 1 to day 3.
Yeah. And me and you were watching a little ball together on Devin Eastern before today, which would be one of the benefits if he moved to Florida, so we could do that more often. But the first step just popped off like immediately, snap after snap. Like obviously there's some inconsistency there, but like there was two guys on the offensive line that I was paying attention to for the national team really closely, where some other, none of the other guys really popped off. But there was two guys who I was paying attention to, Delby Lemieux from Dartmouth, and then Jennings Dunker from Iowa, who I do think Jennings Dunking from Iowa is the best offensive lineman on the national team. But like Devin Eastern worked him pretty good on a one-on-one. And then Delby Lemieux, who was a tackle from Dartmouth, who was working at center. So he's new to the center position. He worked him. That's probably my biggest disappointment is I was ready to come into this like, all right, I need this Dartmouth kid to come and wow me and be like this new find. I thought he was physically not up to par with some of these strong defensive tackles that he was going up against. But like I said, Devin Eastern, I thought did a really good job against both of those guys to go with Lee. Like, my first three notes for this are Lee Hunter, Zane Durant, and then Devin Eastern.
So, with Delby Lemieux, he's 6'4". I think it's going to be a bit of a transition from tackle to center. Again, this is definitely somebody to watch their progression from day 1 to day 3. As far as I know, he hasn't really worked at center before this week or prep for this week. So definitely something to check out as the week goes on. Didn't think he looked terrible. Like he was not getting just overwhelmed.
He's got good hands and stuff. There was just a couple times where guys just kind of had him strength wise. It wasn't like he whiffed or anything. And I actually think in team stuff, he worked a little better. And, for a guy who's new to that, I think that probably works better.
There's a lot more responsibility with getting the snap and getting your hands up. What I mean? It's a whole different adjustment. As far as Jennings Dunker goes, this is a tackle at Iowa, right tackle. He is built out of a mountain. Like, a lot of these offensive linemen that are big, you know what I mean? You can see some bad weight, and it's kind of hard to tell, like, how athletic. Like, this dude looks like he plays rugby. I mean, he was wearing shorts out there, which was also kind of weird, but you can see, like, he's muscular from head to toe. He's got natural strength to him. There's definitely some stuff that for him to clean up. Again, pad level is something I'm going to probably say a little bit too much. It's going to get annoying, but I think if he fixes pad level, he might be the best offensive lineman down here, not just on the national side. So that's definitely something to check out and see if he can continue to get that better. He's somebody to watch, and he's also going to be kind of a favorite because he has like a mullet, so that always goes over well.
A red-haired mullet, which is a very big deal. That just gives you like extra power at guard. I think he's going to have to work at guard in the NFL.
I agree.
We noticed a little bit today in one-on-ones. It's like, man, he's just not getting to the corner the way you want to tackle to. Or getting to his landmarks as quick as you'd like. But at guard, like he looks solid. They work combos pretty well. Like if there's anybody who did have some success in those double team run drills, it was against Lee Hunter was Jennings Dunker. That name is going to drive me freaking crazy.
It's really his kick step at the tackle spot. You can see he's just not getting to his spot fast enough.
Yeah.
It's not that he's not athletic or that he can't move. It looks like he could probably move in space pretty well, but put him inside and let him, use that athleticism on like wham blocks and getting to the second level or getting out in space. I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, I think his home is on the inside.
Yeah, get consistently against speed rushers. I don't think tackle is going to work out for him, but doesn't mean in a pinch he can't jump out there. He's not horrible at tackle.
Yeah, and he's somebody that I think he's in play for the Giants. Like in the second round as well too. On the rest of the guys on the offensive line, there was just a couple guys, two centers, Sam Hecht from Kansas State, and I kept on getting him mixed up with him and Trey Zune from Texas A&M. Those guys just stood out to us, or at least to me consistently, where, the guards and tackles are letting guys around the corner and stuff in these team drills, and the center just felt like he was in a good spot. Now, center responsibilities are very easy down here at the Senior Bowl because they're not blitzing. So you're usually able to get a couple sets of hands on a guy. But I thought both of those guys did fairly well. For the receivers, DBs, and quarterback on the national side, Josh Cameron, who was actually, I think he was the first commit to the Senior Bowl. I remember because I was like, oh, a wide receiver number 34 from Baylor. That's the first commit. Two big grabs, a nice play in team drills. And then they do they always do these competition period at the end of practice of one-on-ones of guys who had good days. So they put James Cameron. I'm not even sure who the corner was, and we posted it on Giants Nation show. He gets up the field. Diego Pavio puts a ball on him, and he's got a. I mean, he catches that ball with his fingertips, and I think he's a bigger player, James Cameron. I just put James Cameron, Joshua Cameron.
I thought that he had Josh Cameron's 6'1", 223. So he's
that's big build.
Yeah, that's big build. Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt quarterback Diego Pavia had an okay day. He was putting the ball up to guys, letting them make plays. Nothing stood out really, really crazy in either direction, other than some rough exchanges with running backs. We'll see if that continues. We've been down here where we saw Jackson Dart fumble like 11 snaps in a row, and then that just didn't become an issue.
Yeah.
So just something to watch out for. But it was, I think, two exchanges with running backs were fumbled. I think both in team drills too, which
Yeah, it was an issue.
Yeah.
Which again, that's one of those things where you don't want to see that, but it's understandable, like seeing these guys move. Diego Pavia, by the way, 5'9". He is a small dude, but like you can see why the guy once, took second place in the Heisman. Like he can throw the ball pretty well, and I thought he was, the quarterback who threw the best out of both sides of this game. Obviously, we're not paying attention to the quarterback too often, but he's deadly close to being on my UDFA wish list.
I think at the end of the week, I don't know if it's just the players or if it's the players and the coaches. They vote. Each team votes for like MVP.
I think it's just players. Yeah,
they
like at each position.
It will not shock me if Diego Pavia wins that. I think this is probably a natural born leader who has some height limitations or whatever you want to say, but was born to play football. Maybe just didn't grow into it.
Yeah. Other notes, Texas A&M wide receiver Caleb Douglas, they ran like this play action corner post, and he just cooked the DB, and the quarterback left it up there a little bit. He went up and got it, so that was a nice play by him. Just not a ton of action in the passing game for either side, just to report back on team drills, and we weren't paying attention to wide receiver DB one-on-ones too much today. But anything else from the national side?
No, that's all my notes. But again, we'll be watching for more action with wide receiver DBs. These practices tend to go run heavy in one day and then go pass heavy in the next day. Hopefully that's the case. There's not a lot to see in rundowns, but so the fact that we didn't see much today doesn't mean that that's going to be a continuing trend going forward. But the American side, this is where a lot of the star power and names are. And wow, did we get to watch a lot of cool stuff for the trenches on this one.
Yeah, dude, there was we talked about like Lee Hunter, Zane Durant, and then we're like Eastern did a decent job. This, dude, I think we'll probably end up leaving guys off of this that I thought had good days. So like Derek Moore, like winner of the national side for me, or the American side, was Derek Moore, the defensive end from Michigan. I mean, he not only had the highlight of the day, he also was just the most consistent. So he had the highlight of the day against our friend Markel Bell, who we interviewed, which, permission to complain later. I'm going to talk about that, not Markel, but about the process of this morning. But I mean, he blasted through Markel Bell, and it was very clear. Markel's a big guy, right? So, he's not going to be facing that type of player very often at tackle in the NFL.
He's a very big guy.
You could see Moore got good get off, and Bell is trying to get to his landmark. And so as he's getting to his landmark, so he's got his momentum still working outside. I mean, he just bulls through. I'm sure you've seen it all over social media if you're watching this Senior Bowl recap. And then after that, he was just I don't know if that he always plays like that or that just juiced him up. I mean, he was playing with some pop the rest of the day. Like anytime he had a tight end on him, squeezing him down into the A gap, making run stops by, tackling tight ends into the running back. When he was going against tackles, squeezing them down, winning other one-on-one opportunities. He was the player of the day on the American side easily for me. I mean, he was just playing with strength. And I think that's just a Jim Harbaugh Michigan recruit type of thing. Remember Josiah Stewart last year out of Michigan, who played for the Chargers this year, is like that just beast of a run defender. That's something we talked about with some Titans people down here. It's like you're going to need, he's going to want some run defending edges. Jahad Ward had a quote about that. If the Giants are, I can look up consensus big board and see where he's going. But if hey, you know what, maybe maybe they move off of Kayvon and trade him or whatever. Like just kind of talking through things of a situation where they get him. That is a guy who could fit as the Giants' third edge. I was like, yeah, man, you're a run defender and you're gonna rush you're gonna rush with power consistently.
Yeah, I think if you just look at numbers, the 6'3" length is probably going to worry somebody at the defensive end position. I think the tape from today, if that continues all week, will shut up those people. I'm not sure how much that length is going to matter when he plays the way he played today. I mean, he straight up put people on their butts. So that was an incredible day.
Currently 84th in the consensus big board. Big board. Oklahoma defensive tackle Grayson Halton.
A great day in team drills. He was firing himself up too. I mean, he's a very high energy player, but he was bursting into the backfield and wrecking everything. In team drills and one-on-ones, he had some moments as well. Not quite as dominant as Derek Moore, but definitely caught our eye. And then we were like, oh, okay. And then we knew his name by the end of practice. So that's usually saying something.
Yeah, he was just like, Derek Moore popped off early, and I was like, all right, I'm watching Derek Moore. Grayson Halton was the kept on grabbing my attention guy, right? I wasn't watching him specifically, and he just kept on like, all right, I'm making sure that's the Oklahoma kid, right? Because the helmets look like Alabama, and there's an Alabama defensive tackle, Tim Keenan, who we really like down here as well. He was just winning consistently, and in those team drills, making run stops, one-on-ones. I thought he did, had a few nice plays as well too. So he had a really good day. Alabama, I just mentioned him, Alabama defensive tackle Tim Keenan, just a real deal run defender who squeezes guys down. And then this guy, we're probably going to say his name wrong and do it forever unless the Giants end up drafting him. Illinois' Gabe Jackass. It's probably Jackass or Jassis. It's Jacas. So you tell me how you pronounce that. He won with speed consistent. He was just kind of dusting the interior guys with his speed and ability to dip.
Yeah, I think he popped off. I also think that, Tim Keenan looked really, really good defending the run, especially a 330-pound guy. Missouri defensive lineman Zion Young also caught my eye. 6'5", 250 pounds. Had some good moments in one-on-ones as well.
Yeah, he had worked the corner on a tackle, and he pushed his shoulder and just ripped him to the ground. Like there's
some plays that get like a consensus, like ooh, from the crowd. That was one of them.
Yeah, so like there's a new Senior Bowl director here, Drew Fabian, I think is how his last name's pronounced. We keep mispronouncing. That's part of Senior Bowl week charm is mispronouncing names.
Correct.
I don't know if it was a concerted effort, but man, like the guys on the front are just strong.
Yes.
Like they're consistently strong. There's obviously some speed guys here, but it's consistent strength, and they obviously they have some guys drop out. Had a lot of guys drop out, honestly.
Yeah.
So that's good. Anybody else on the defensive front that you wanted to mention for the American side?
No, but if we're going to stick with the trenches, I thought Miami offensive lineman James Brockermeyer had a pretty good day today. He's another one where it was just like, all right, that was good. Look it up. It's James Brockermeyer. All right, that was a good one. Look it up. It's James Brockermeyer. So you just keep finding him throughout the day, but was not somebody that was just shutting everybody down. But again, it's about progress throughout the week.
Yeah, there was really nobody that stood out on the offensive line. And, right now he's like 250th on consensus board. I know we're referencing it. A lot of it's going to change. But it was just like because the defensive tackles were kind of winning and getting pushed consistently. Whenever it felt like there was a win for the offensive line, it was James Brockermeyer out of Miami. On the opposite side, Markel Bell had I mean, if there's any guy who's probably like tanking his and listen to the interview tomorrow on Patreon, I'm really selling it. He's had a pretty bad Senior Bowl, which I feel bad because we interviewed him. He's a great guy.
Well, I mean,
but maybe he can come on the show.
I don't know if these guys, and again, day one doesn't mean everything in the universe. Again, guys can remake, they can make us forget day one. But overall, I don't know if it's just the defensive line is so much more impressive than I thought, or some of the offensive linemen are not impressing me as much as I thought, like Austin Barber, Markel Bell. I'm not really sure which it was, but overall, the defensive line just killed in the trenches today on both team drills and one-on-ones. It was not even close.
Yeah. So moving from the trenches, a guy we fell in love with today was Dane Brew. We were kind of going through highlights just to get familiar with like the strengths of some of these receivers and tight ends this morning. which we could do a lot more if we move to Florida.
Mhm.
Ted Hurst, Georgia State. Dane Brugger puts out a tweet like people are going to get to know his name, and we're like, all right, that's next on the YouTube search list. And we fell in love with him like through 20 seconds of highlights.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, like, after this video, Paul, like, when we are all done, just look up his highlights and you'll understand why. Today he had like one really, really big moment, but
and we weren't focusing on him a ton, but like the first play of his highlights, we're like, damn, he's fast. And I say, like, yeah, sometimes though you see these small school guys and they just look faster because they're running away from shitty. And 3 plays in, we're like, oh no, they're just fast. He runs every route. He goes up and mosses people. So he had a one-on-one that he won when we were watching him, and he wins. The ball gets thrown to like inside shoulder the DB. And we kind of look away and we're like, what? Did the referee just put his hands up?
well, I saw him get up and like toss the ball. Like here, I thought the ball was rolling through the back of the end zone. I was like, wait, did he catch that? And then you turn around and just in time to see the referee put his arms up for a touchdown. One-handed grab over the defensive back was insane.
Yeah, we went and found the video, and that was insane. Malik Muhammad, who's another guy we interviewed, who's viewed as a pretty good corner here. We'll talk about his matchup with Jacoby Lane that we saw. He just ran past him on a vertical, which Malik Muhammad likes to get physical. He was in press. I wasn't jamming, but he was in press, and he beat him on that. He didn't get the ball thrown his way. The quarterbacks, I know it's the Illinois guy. What's his name? Is it Niedermeyer? Am I getting that right?
No, that's not right.
But they just didn't give us anything to work with.
Altmaier.
Yeah, Altmaier. Also, this, permission to complain about the American team. Can we not run the ball every single play?
So that's the other thing. It's not even that the passing game was uninspired. It's that they didn't really throw the ball a lot. So you had Garrett Nussmeier back there. So you have some LSU quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier. You have some legitimate opportunity for some passing concepts to be downfield. Most of the throws in team drills were within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. It was probably 70-30 run to pass ratio in team drills as well. So not as much chance for guys to shine as wide receivers.
Hold on. Can you guys hear us, or is it just the video that's frozen? This is wonderful.
Open it on my phone.
All right, so we're frozen. So they can hear us. So they're double hearing us. Let me mute this.
Okay.
Let's go. Let me see. Why don't you exit out of StreamYard and then come back. All right, we're going to come back here in a second with from the other video, hopefully. So now you're just looking dead ass at me.
Dead ass.
Dead ass.
I'm disconnecting from the Wi-Fi.
People are saying fix. All right.
All right, cool.
Echo still?
How are we now? We good? You got us back? Say 2 thumbs up if you saw me do 2 thumbs up. Tim Rassey says, yikes. You know what? Yikes you, dude. Okay. We're in a freaking Airbnb in Mobile, Alabama.
Yeah. The complaints section addresses some of this, by the way.
Yeah. All right. 2 thumbs. We got 2 thumbs up. Okay. So we're good. What were we talking about? Oh, Malik Muhammad, who,
Ted Hurst.
Ted Hurst ran past him. Oh, and that's what we were saying is they just ran the ball every single play.
Ted Hurst, by the way, 6'3", 207 pounds. So not only fast, but has some insane length to him as well.
That guy is, when we do our Senior Bowl mock, he's got to end up on there. Jacoby Lane, the receiver from USC, I think was the highest rated receiver for this week. That's still in this. I thought he struggled anytime guys got his hands on him. Malik Muhammad, who we just talked about, the Texas corner, really mugged him. And even like some guys from off, right? Like he goes to run, a vertical or an out route, and just anytime he got hands on him, he struggled, which kind of worries me for a guy like a 6'4" contested catch type of guy. Like I need you to be a little more physical than what he was.
He was pretty good at the catch point, but it is worrying that he can't even get off the line of scrimmage at times. I was kind of trying to focus, since we're transitioning to this John Harbaugh sort of system, and there's going to be a likely A likely emphasis on tight ends, and we have an expiring contract for Daniel Bellinger. There were 2 tight ends that I wanted to watch, and I thought they had a pretty good day today for what we were able to see both in blocking and receiving, and that was Stanford tight end Sam Roush, 6'5", 259 pounds. I liked his film from the little bit that I got to watch before we started today. I'm going to dive into that later, but I thought he had a pretty good day today, catching whatever was thrown his way. Again, everything was kind of within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. I know he can do more than that, but today that's what we saw. And I thought blocking, considering the defensive ends that he was going up against, I thought he did a pretty good job. And Wyoming tight end John Michael Gillenberg, also 6'5", 251 pounds, pretty much same thing.
Yeah.
They look legitimately like the traditional tight ends that are going to be operating out of the Y set with the ability to catch passes, run routes, and most importantly, block in line and, on the move and stuff like that. So definitely, guys, I'm going to keep my eyes on throughout the rest of this week and watch as much film as I can of them.
All right. So do you have anything else before we do some questions?
No.
With the chat? All right. So get your questions in with the chat. Don't ask about individual players in these questions. Just one is day one, so we didn't get to see everybody or have a thought on everybody. We basically talked about everybody that we wanted to overall. Maybe I guess you could talk about some of the players that we talked about if you want to ask something deeper on those guys, or maybe you can't. So while those people are questions is permission to complain like a media scumbag about how hard it is to work. Being at a college all-star game and getting to watch guys play football and talk about football. Permission to complain about that like a scumbag.
Permission granted.
Dude, why is these practices being later sucks. It sucks. We're sitting around and let's start it off. So because they're later and they're doing meetings with the players and the scouts in the mornings. So our media availability started at 5:30 today. 5:30, which means we're up at 4:30, and we're there at 5:30. All right, we're here. Like, this is not about sleep this week. It's about grinding, and we don't love doing player interviews. They're not our favorite thing, but we might as well do them and take advantage of the opportunity.
For starters, players don't want to do them as much as we don't want to do them.
Yeah, so we get Markel Bell out of Miami. Good conversation. I'm a Miami fan, so I busted his chops a little about not winning the national championship, and they'll be out on our Patreon tomorrow. Cool. Right, so we finished that interview. It's what, 5:50, 5:55. We sat there until what, 9 o'clock?
Something.
Yeah, until 9 a.m. Didn't get another single interview. Yeah, we left at 8:52, and got another single interview. So I'm like, all right, that's freaking fantastic. Thanks, that's awesome.
Not just us, by the way. We weren't being singularly omitted. There were plenty of other.
Yeah, players weren't coming, and I'm not I'm blaming the schedule, not individual people. So that was kind of frustrating. And then the practices are late. So it's like, all right, if we wanted to do what we did in the past where we did a jam football video, the live stream, edit, it's just like, all right, well, that makes it very impossible to do that. And so basically it's only just so the scouts can go out and just drink at night. I feel like that's only, and it's ice-ass cold. I don't know, but I just didn't like it. So permission to complain.
Well, we had other issues with setup at the stadium.
Yeah, that might have been our fault. Trying to figure out what that was because it worked for everybody else. But but anyway else, it's our favorite our favorite week of the year. So let's we got some questions. All right, go ahead.
One last thing on the later practices. I don't know if it's so the scouts can go out and drink. I have no idea, but I'll tell you this.
They say it's for the players because they don't want the men doing meetings at night is the thing.
That may be the case. What I can tell you is the way it normally is half of the stadium is sectioned off for NFL personnel only on one side of the field, and then for everybody else like us and PFF and whatever on the other side of the field. Because it is so late, the sun set on that side of the field. So all of those scouts came over and sat on our side for the second practice. I was sitting alone and I turn around. I'm like, wait a minute. Why are there so many people suddenly? I was surrounded by the entire Bears scouting department. Like all of them.
This is one of the emptiest Senior Bowl crowds I've seen since COVID. The first year that I came in 2021, where usually it's like, man, it's jam packed. We're almost like there's too many people here. This year it's a lot less. I think obviously the weather had a lot to do with that. So let's get to some of the questions. But no, last year we were like Mr. Insiders, getting all this information. We haven't done that at all this year.
No.
So don't ask us about any information. Is Joe Shane there? No, Joe Shane's not here. John Harbaugh's not here either. I think some people were trying to make something out of that, of like, well, the Senior Bowl players aren't this or that, and they're not. It's. I think it's simply they're just trying to put together the coaching staff.
It's just time.
And there's a lot of things that they're working on. Brian Dable didn't come to the Senior Bowl his first year as head coach. I really think it's about that. I don't think it's the Giants now being like, you know what, we don't care about. It's the Senior Bowl. The Giants draft a handful of players from here every year. The Ravens.
I was going to say, history says that both John Harbaugh and Joe Shane are fans.
Well, and it's not even like, we're looking for players from the Senior Bowl. I mean, there's 130 players here. There's a likelihood you're going to get 2 players out of this event in every draft,
and you get a ton of access with them. It's one less combine interview that you have to waste.
Yeah,
like 30 visit. Yeah,
like the combine, you get you get a certain amount of slots. Here, you get to interview you get to have contact with every single player. So
there are Giant scouts here, by the way.
Yeah, Tim McDonald was. I saw the Talking Giants guys post. Tim McDonald was here. There was another. Chris Snee, who was, obviously close with those guys. So those guys were there. So, yeah, I don't think there's is the Giants' first round pick at the Senior Bowl? Absolutely not.
No way.
That's a clear no. I think a second round pick, 4th round pick, very good chance. But first round pick is not in this, unless we trade up into the first round and draft Lee Hunter or something.
The first round pick may have opted out of the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, that's another complaint, and everyone we have limited time to prep for the Senior Bowl, especially when the Giants are doing a coaching search. It felt like every guy we did prep on ended up dropping out of the damn. Even like some of the lesser guys, like Michael Trigg. Like my first write up was the Baylor tight end Michael Trigg. He's not even here, so I don't know what the damn deal is with that. Maybe he is here and I didn't notice him. Let's see. Could you collab with Bengal for pre-draft content? Yeah, we will do something with Bengal. We did it last year. We will do it again. Does the schedule impact the ability to get Mexican food? Yes, because today pissed us off so much that we're not doing interviews tomorrow. We're just not going tomorrow. So that means we don't have to wake up at 4:30, which means that's where we are going after this.
The other thing is that half of this town is closed at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
So when you have these practices end at 6 p.m., that really...
Yeah, it's just downtown that's open after 8 p.m.
That's
or 9 p.m. or whatever.
And it's mostly bar restaurants, which is usually a great place to be and not the best dinner.
Yeah. And we're here to work. We're here to do football.
Yeah.
Let's see. What other questions do we have? Bobby, do you ever want to be a coach? I want to be a JV offensive line coach. That's what I want. First impression of the class says we should trade down and get that 3rd round pick, or is it a good class to not have a 3rd rounder? Oh, we're not far enough into the process for that. I would still love to trade down from pick 5 if it was an opportunity, but
it's got to be the right opportunity.
I just don't see anyone being like, I got to trade up for the 5th pick for this play. I don't see that being a scenario.
It's also January. A lot is going to change with the draft order and players and the big board. All that's going to do. The combine's still got to happen. Injuries are probably going to happen. Stories, about players' character are going to come out. There's a lot that's going to change.
We'll do a couple more questions. Do you guys get more usable info from the drills, or are these guys going max effort in the game? I think, I think we do a Senior Bowl recap, and the Senior Bowl game hasn't actually played. I get much more from the practices than watching the game, which I do enjoy watching the game every year. But the practices, I think, is where you really see these guys, the competition going. You get more one-on-one opportunities. You get corners forced to play man coverage. So
it depends on the coaching staff, but I would say 99 times out of 100 more out of the practice than the game.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's see. Let's get one more question in here for the people, and then we will roll and we'll go have dinner. Yeah, so we were planning to do the whole thing at the stadium like we usually do, and we're just like, you know what?
It's cold.
It's ice cold. And the thing is, another thing, because it ends at late, is that they're going to close the stadium within an hour of the practice and lock it up. And what's the point of us sitting here rushing and panicking, trying to get this all done and then packed up and out? And then you know what? Let's just set up at the Airbnb, and we'll do shows from here for the week with this stupid ass cow that I hate so damn much.
Mooby.
I might throw that cow in the pool.
He's gonna drown it.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually,
Culture of violence over here. I swear.
all right, let's go. We'll be doing the same thing tomorrow after practice, same time,
He'll be less salty.
same place. Yeah, and day 2 is always I feel like the best day
Yes.
as well, because day 1 is like, are you getting a feel? Oh, that's another complaint. Start bringing back full staffs, right?
Yes.
These guys, you got people trying to work with each other for the first time. A guy who hasn't been a head coach being a head coach, and they don't know how to run a practice, and it's just not as smooth. When I came down here the first year, and it was Matt Rule and Brian Flores, that was ran like a training camp practice. There was no wasted time. There was plenty of work. They knew what they were doing. There was good coaching, good communication. Now you got this hodgepodge of just like a bunch of random people, and they don't know how to run a damn practice. They don't know exactly what they're looking for.
I think the player development ends up getting sacrificed for this idea of coaching development, which is not really what I think the Senior Bowl is designed.
If you want to do that, what you do is you bring in a coaching staff. You let one person from that coaching staff be the head coach for that week.
That makes sense.
And you let him run that, but keep one coaching staff. They need to get back. I'm looking right at you, Mr. Senior Bowl. Start bringing that back. Okay. Start bringing it back, because we're here for the players and we're here for the media. That's who this is really about, the media. All right, let's go have some dinner. Appreciate you guys. And let's go Big Blue.